All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the weekend recap of the first week of the 2025 NFL season. And we are fresh off of a Sunday night doozy between the Lions and the Rams. Lions pull it out in overtime. They pound the rock all the way down the field for a rushing touchdown to walk off the game and to put Sunday to a beautiful rest. We're going to be diving in and giving a couple brief topics on what stood out in each game today and giving a slight preview to tomorrow night. Just a couple things. This video isn't going to go too long. I don't want to spend too much time on each team, but just some things that stood out to me. And I got to say, guys, is there anything better than football being back? Every year, once the Super Bowl ends, I find myself missing football so much every single day. And even though I miss it that much every day, when opening kickoff happens for the following season, I still surprise myself on how much I missed it. So super exciting. Before we get started, like and subscribe. Throw some comments down below on what stood out to you. If you have any disagreements, love to chat it out. And let's get into it. So we're going to start with the Packers and Eagles. I know it's not technically the weekend, but we didn't recap that, so we'll give a brief review. Obviously, I don't believe there's any bigger news than Jordan Love getting hurt. They say a MCL sprain, which I was looking at kind of the severity table of how long the recovery timeline is for that. They're saying 3 to 6 weeks, so it seems like a mild sprain, which just really sucks. I mean, I had the Packers going to the Super Bowl, and, nothing is really clear week one. There's so much, sloppiness and chaotic football, so to speak, because teams are, obviously still trying to find their identity. A lot of players don't play in the preseason, so it's hard to take week one too seriously. You want to take it with a grain of salt for sure. But Love getting hurt, you don't need to take that with a grain of salt. That really stings. For a player who just signed a huge contract in the offseason, was going to be the face of their franchise, still is, just to be out for 3 to 6 weeks. Then you don't know how he's going to play when he gets back. So we'll have to evaluate when that gets here. But that definitely sucks. And he showed some rust, as did Jalen Hurts, which is expected. And he still looked like the quarterback that made plays when he needed to. And overall, I think this was probably the sloppiest game. And I don't know how, if out in Brazil traveling, with it being week one, how much both of those play into it. I'm sure more than not. But the Eagles prevail 34-29, and Saquon goes crazy. What an addition. This Eagles offense, I mean, you got Jalen Hurts, a nasty offensive line, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. You just traded for Jahan Dotson, who was former first rounder for the Commanders. Pretty gross. And now on defense, you had Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. They looked good, especially Quinyon had a couple big breakups. So Eagles prevail. Nice win, especially when you're traveling that far. You want to get the W. Before we move on, Jaden Reed for the Packers. Dude looks like he's going to be next level receiver. So, Packers fans, keep your hopes up. Hopefully your team can put together a few wins so you don't fall too far behind until Jordan Love comes back. Moving on to the 1 o'clock games, starting with the Steelers and the Falcons. Steelers prevail 18-10. Justin Fields gets the start due to Russell Wilson's injury. And to nobody's surprise, the offense for both teams was anemic, almost non-existent. More shocking for the Falcons for sure, but I guess you could slightly expect it with the Steelers' defense being so good. And I guess Kirk Cousins, first game, new team, new scheme, new players, new stadium. Maybe there is a slight break-in period, but definitely stinks to lose your home opener, especially after you spend $200 million damn near on a quarterback and you come out and you get 10 points in your home opener. So that stinks. And with the Steelers, Justin Fields gets a W. He didn't look crazy efficient, but a win is a win. And I wonder if Russell Wilson gets back, can you take Justin Fields out? If he keeps winning, no, you can't. But even if they lose, if he's playing good, I don't expect Tomlin to just put Russell in there. I think Fields is in control of his destiny at this point. So I think that he's the best option just to evaluate moving forward. Like, what is Russell going to do for your franchise in the future? He's on a 1-year deal. And Fields technically is too, since they probably won't accept his player option for the 5th year. But I'd ride with Fields. See what you got. Moving on, Patriots and Bengals. You see, I'm donning the custom Patriots jersey, number 4, Toussaint, high school number. Maybe could have made it. Probably not. Man, this was awesome. This was so freaking awesome. You know, the Bengals tend to start slow since Joe Burrow's taken over, but they said that that's not going to happen this year. And I give more credit to the Patriots defense in this game than I do to the lack of getting it together, so to speak, for the Bengals. Patriots defense. I've watched every snap of the Patriots game for my entire life, and I haven't seen a defense flying around that physical and that fast in a very long time. It felt so good and refreshing because sometimes when I watch the Patriots defense, we're good, we're very technically sound, but I always feel like we're lacking an explosiveness or a next level physicality that you see with some of the top defenses over the years. And we had that today. We damn near dominated the line of scrimmage the entire game, except for the one touchdown drive the Bengals had. We looked so good. Keon White, monster day. Bentley and Tavai, those two linebackers in the middle field, they're going to be sweet. You didn't hear much out of Jamar Chase. So see, Christian Gonzalez was locking him down for the most part. And then we got some pretty good safeties. You know, we got Duggar and Peppers. And Peppers is the heart and soul of this team, no doubt. But then you got Jalen Hawkins in the back. And even some reserves. You got Del Pettis, who made a great special teams play. And we still got to get Marte Mapu back. So, exciting for the Patriots. The offense did enough. And Joe Burrow and Bengals slow start. You know, blame it on that if you want. But these guys are all professionals. And the Patriots came to play. And Bengals simply did not. You know, they gave Gerard the good old Gatorade shower. That was awesome. Great to see. Happy for him. We'll take him any way you get him this year. Moving on, Cardinals and Bills. Bills win 34-28, and the Buffalo himself, Josh Allen, bulldozes the Cardinals. Dude is just insane. They don't make him like this naturally. He has to be a product of some sort of experiment. I mean, this guy can throw it a country mile and then run you over like he's freaking Jerome Bettis. It's incredibly fun to watch when you're rooting for them, and not so much if you're a Cardinals fan today. I will say, Arizona, very feisty. I touched on that in our season preview. I think they're going to be a feisty group, and they did that. And Kyler Murray made a couple really nice passes on that last drive that the receivers just couldn't haul it in. I'd expect some excitement from the Cardinals this year. I think they could pull out a couple surprising wins and be a potential 7-9 win team. All right, Bears and Titans. Bears pull it off 24-17 somehow without scoring on an offensive touchdown. Yeah, that is just crazy. But like I said earlier, a win is a win. You don't care how you get him, and that's what Caleb said. He obviously put a lot of the onus on him for the offensive struggles, and to be fair, that is probably the direction you need to point. It's his first game as an NFL quarterback. Like, you got to give him some grace. You know, he did not look good, but you got the win. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I expect them to be a little more aggressive with him. in the upcoming games. They got the Texans Sunday night next week. That's going to be super fun to watch. But that Bears defense looking pretty legit. Titans kind of crushing for them. You know, they were winning in the fourth quarter and they give it up at home. That stinks on a pick six, too, to take the lead. So, Titans, nobody's really expecting too much out of them, but if you're a Titans fan, you still do want to see some glimpses of hope, and hopefully you'll see those over the next few weeks. Alrighty, Texans and Colts. This game was crazy cool. So, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans, which are just freaking loaded. As you watch them, you heard all the moves they made in the offseason, but then you start to see them on the field. You're like, okay, they got Joe Mixon, who went off. You got Stephon Diggs, who was a huge contributor, 2 touchdowns. And Nico Collins, obviously, a great left tackle. Then you signed Danielle Hunter. You got Derek Stingley. I think even though this team was taken seriously over the offseason, I still think, do they have the highest potential of any of the AFC South teams? I definitely believe so. And then touching on one more thing before we move on to the next game, Anthony Richardson is stupid gifted. I mean, this guy, he had a 60-yard touchdown pass to Alec Pierce where he slipped, then stumbled, then threw it falling backwards 65 yards in the air in a bucket for a touchdown. And I could watch that throw every day of the week and I would not get sick of it. And he had a couple plays today where you're just like, man, if this guy can really get it to like where he's using his skill at the highest potential, and Shane Steichen is just dialing up a mastermind game plan, this Colts team, man, look out. That's for sure. Next game, Jags versus Dolphins. 20-17. Dolphins pull it off on a game-winning field goal by Jason Sanders. A long one, too, over 50 yards. And that's not even the most exciting thing that happened to the Dolphins today. Tyreek Hill gets detained on his way to the game. Real weird situation. I guess they put one of the police officers on administrative leave. Not quite sure. Tyreek had some pretty, important comments after the game saying, like, what if he wasn't Tyreek Hill? And he raises a valid point. We're not going to get into that, but I will say, crazy to just get arrested right next to your Lamborghini on the way to play in your season opener for the Dolphins as Tyreek Hill, and then come in and score an 80-yard touchdown and go over 100 yards. What a wild day. Tough loss for the Jags, though. Winning most of the game, looking really good. Defense was holding up, but they just could not seal the deal. Trevor Lawrence made a very nice pass to Brian Thomas in the corner of the end zone. Just lofted it right over the Miami defender for a toe tap touchdown. Tough loss for the Jags, but hey, 16 teams lose, 16 teams win. Jags just couldn't pull it off. Moving on next week. All right. Now for the most embarrassing game of week 1. Saints vs. Panthers. And I gotta say, if you're a Panthers fan, this has gotta hurt. Last year was probably, I watched the Patriots every day, or every game, every snap, and it was brutal. And all my fellow Patriot fans, I know how brutal it was, because I know you agree with me. That offense was terrible. But when I watched the Panthers offense at times last year, I was like, hey, this ain't so bad, Patriots. In offseason, they get Deontay Johnson. They get Xavier Legette. They add a couple offensive linemen. They draft Jonathan Brooks. Granted, he's not in yet, dealing with the injury. Still recovering. They laid a freaking egg. Bryce got that one rushing touchdown, but you might as well not even count it. He was not good. Saints defense is good. But man, to kind of get the hype train moving a little bit, to hear that Bryce Young is going to be taking the next step and he's going to show why he was the number 1 overall pick, and to go like 9 for 19. with 2 interceptions, 100 yards, no touchdowns through the air. That sucks. It really does. You know, you don't want to overreact. It's one game, but you thought you'd at least get a little something. And, besides the Panthers being terrible, the Saints, damn. Derek Carr was dropping dimes. So I wonder if Scott Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak, now their offensive coordinator, I wonder how much of a difference he makes. Because I heard some things through that organization that it's making a difference, and Derek Carr looks really good. And, I mean, shit, they put up 47 points. And Derek Carr looked good doing it. So, maybe this is a better team than I thought. Rooting for him. And if they can get Kamara back to being how he was a few years ago, definitely look out. The final 1 o'clock game, Vikings versus Giants. Vikings pull it off 28-6, and it probably wasn't even that close. Daniel Jones is auditioning for pretty much every other team at this point through the rest of the year because he is not going to be on the Giants unless they have a miraculous turnaround, but they can opt out of that contract. They're going to. I can pretty much bank on it. Sam Darnold, I wonder if he's going to have a slight resurgence with Kevin O'Connell. He's got the weapons, he's got the line, he's got the play caller, and he's got the talent. Can he put it all together and have an Alex Smith-like resurgence to his career? I'd love to see it, even though he probably won't be in the Vikings jersey past this year. Still rooting for the guy. And for the Giants, one bright spot, at least Malik Neighbors looks good. That's exciting. And that's exciting for whatever quarterback you draft next year. First 4 o'clock game we're diving into is the Raiders versus the Chargers. Chargers win 22-10. And Jim Harbaugh's there. Chargers and Raiders, close game all the way through the fourth quarter. But they don't charger. Are they breaking the curse? I know one of my friends, Morgan, huge San Diego Charger fan, whole entire life. I know he's praying to any god that'll listen that they do break that curse. And this is a step in the right direction. They should have definitely beat the Raiders. It shouldn't have even been that close. But these guys are all professionals. And I think really what it came down to is the Raiders just don't have a QB. And the Chargers do. And the Raiders, you wonder if Michael Penix or Bo Nix got to them, would they have pulled the trigger? I think probably, yeah. And you just hope the Chargers can build on this one moving forward. The first one's the toughest, they say. So they get the Band-Aid off and look for them to maybe build a little bit of momentum going forward, a little bit of pressure's off. Hopefully Justin Herbert can prove why he's a top quarterback. Rooting for the guy. Next game, Broncos versus Seahawks. Seahawks win 26-20. And Knicks definitely struggled, which is expected in these first games for these rookies. Against also a Seahawks defense that Mike McDonald had that D soaring around the field. It's kind of like if you're an offensive-minded head coach, they say take defensive players in the draft because you can coach the offensive players better and vice versa. Mike McDonald had that defense looking nice, and I still think that obviously they have a ceiling that is not the tallest because Geno is good, but is Geno playoff victories good? Tough to believe. I think if you're the Seahawks, even with Bo Nix struggling, you probably would trade Bo Nix for Geno Smith, and you'd feel a lot better about it, but we're living in hypothetical land at this point. Seahawks get the win, and defense looks fast. And Broncos, I think you'll see some nice things from Bo Nix this season. Cowboys versus Browns. Cowboys win 33-17. And the biggest takeaway from this game is that Deshaun Watson is not worth $60 freaking million a year. That contract is just a monstrosity. He looked terrible. People will say, oh, well, he didn't have his 2 tackles. The Cowboys defense really good. When he had time, he was skipping passes over the middle. He had no feel for the game. I mean, it's just tough to watch. Like, it's almost like he looks disengaged, and maybe he is. But Browns, you got huge problems, man. That team has got so much talent. If you can't get $60 million play, if you can't even get $15 million play out of your $60 million quarterback, you guys are screwed. And you're tied to that for the next 3 years. So hopefully they could turn that around. Doesn't look like it, though. Cowboys, Dak gets paid, and he backs it up today with a nice game. CeeDee Lamb just making catches over the middle look easy. Zeke looks like he's still got it, and he looked like that last year. I think that's what the missing piece for the Cowboys was last year. They needed a physical run game, and Zeke back on the Cowboys looked cool. I liked it. And then another note, Brandon Aubrey. I mean, this guy, is he the best kicker in the league? I know it's only like his 18th professional game, but the dude hit a 66-yard field goal easily, but they had a freaking delay of game, so they backed it up to 71, and they still thought about kicking it, which is crazy, but he hit a 68-yarder in the preseason. This guy does not miss. Knock on wood. Having a kicker is important. They're usually your highest scorer, and they probably got the best one. So it's kind of therapeutic to watch him kick, I'm not going to lie. Everyone is just perfect. Moving on, Commanders versus the Buccaneers. Buccaneers take it 37-20 at Raymond James Stadium, and Baker lights it up. 4 touchdowns, only like 5 incompletions. Mike Evans, the ageless, physical, go up and get it receiver, just continues to show why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And Buccaneers kind of make a statement, you know. Commanders weren't like some barn burner team that is going to make a run, but the Bucs kind of slaughtered them. And looks like they've got that chemistry that they were finding at the end of the year. Looks like it carried over into the first game. Baker just looks good in a Buccaneers uniform. He's got the mentality. The Buccaneers, you know, kind of got that like rough, ragged look to their mascot and to that like the personality of the logo. And Baker's just fits that well. It's fun to see him succeed. And I picked them to win the division, and today in week 1, they showed why that is the right decision. Commanders, obviously, going to be a lot of highs and lows this year. The highs, Jaden is so exciting. He just has a shiftiness. He reminds me more of Michael Vick than he does Lamar Jackson. Lamar is so shifty and elusive, where Jaden just has this really easy ability to find scramble yards, which is kind of how Michael Vick ran the ball most of the time when he was in his career. And he had the beautiful deep ball. And Jaden, that's exactly his profile. Lanky, but just has this long speed that once he gets moving, those strides are beautiful. And he just puts touch on it like few do. And then there's some lows. You know, first play of the game, tosses out a swing pass behind the line of scrimmage that just looked rushed. I don't know what quite happened. Maybe it's the jitters, but it was like a 10-yard loss first play of the game. And he was kind of laughing a little bit. You know, you got to laugh at yourself sometimes, shake it off, move on to the next play. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. You just hope there's more highs than lows. And boy, oh boy, moving on to the last game, the Sunday nightcap, Rams versus Lions, and it was everything we paid for. in our Fubo or Hulu or YouTube TV subscriptions. On NBC Sunday Night Football, the Lions take down the Rams 26-20 in overtime at Detroit. Goff versus Stafford, McVay versus Campbell. Rematch of the wild card round in last year's postseason, and the Lions prevail. This was such a fun game. It's such a fun story. It's just, I don't know how the football gods continue to chef's kiss each and every year so elegantly. It's so fun. I just sit there and I watch. I'm like, I'm not even a fan of these two teams. Obviously, I like the Rams and Lions, but it's not like they're I need them to win. And I'm on the edge of my seat during this game, rooting for the Lions because their story is so cool. And since they started off 1-6 in Dan Campbell's second year, they're one of the best teams in football. And he's got this team believing, and they're probably the most physical team in the NFL. And on that drive after they won the coin toss and Dan Campbell is smiling, they ran the ball every single play except for one, I believe, and they did it with authority. They ran right down that field, 70 yards, and punched it in the end zone to win. I mean, what a freaking awesome way to end the first Sunday of the NFL season. Physicality always prevails in football. You know, you see teams try to get cute, try to win with play design and you know, more skill set receivers and, you know, more elusive backs and agile offensive linemen. And obviously those things do work. But when it comes down to it, it's 11 men versus 11 men. And you guys are punching each other every fucking play. And the most physical team prevails. And the Lions are probably the most physical team. They definitely probably have the best offensive line. Penei Sewell gets paid, and they just run it behind him. And that guy is a road grader. He's incredible. Unfortunately for the Rams, injuries prevail. Puka Nacua, a couple of their offensive linemen. It's just kind of been the issue with them since the Super Bowl victory. Hopefully things can work out. You know, I want every team to succeed, but mostly I want every team to remain healthy. It sucks when these guys get hurt. But you know this is extra sweet for the Lions. I know Jared Goff loves beating the Rams in Detroit after he was casted off by the Rams, beating them in the playoffs last year. That's sweet. But that's more of like a team win. We're doing this for the city. And they move on in the playoffs. Well, this week 1 game, you don't think this meant even, maybe not more, but just as much to Jared Goff to take down Stafford again? To say, like, you didn't just get lucky last time. I've got this team. I'm the leader of this team, and we're not to be messed with. I bet you this feels extra sweet for Jared Goff. Super happy for the guy. You would have never imagined him being the perfect Detroit quarterback, but damn, he is. And it's awesome. Rooting for him. Those are all the games that happened this weekend and Friday. 49ers and Jets tomorrow night should be super exciting. Aaron Rodgers finally back on the field in over a year. Niners coming off a Super Bowl loss in heart-wrenching fashion. Can they pick up where they left off? It's going to be fun. The schedule makers know what they're doing. And they did a great job this first week. We get to end the week on probably the biggest storyline in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers. And then the defending NFC champions. So, super excited. Can't wait to see how Aaron Rodgers looks. Can't wait to see how Brock Purdy looks. Can't wait to see how CMC looks. Can't wait to see how the Jets defense looks. It's going to be fun. So happy football is back. It just feels so good. It's always like a little part of me is missing, and I'm sure you guys feel that way too. Glad to have it. Glad to talk to you guys again on Tuesday, recapping the game and looking forward to the week. You guys have a great Monday and enjoy the game. Talk to you guys. Peace out.